Most people talk their dreams to death. That is the hard truth. Not because their dreams are small, not because their dreams are impossible, but because they talk about them before they've earned the right to. I have watched it happen for 40 years. A man tells the whole town what he's going to build. A woman tells every friend what she's about to become. They announce it, they post it, they celebrate it. And then, somewhere along the way, the fire goes out. The plan dies quietly, and they never quite understand why. I'll tell you why. Because the moment you speak a dream out loud to the wrong ears, part of you starts to believe it's already done. The talking replaces the doing. And that is the invisible enemy I want to sit down and talk to you about tonight. Because if you learn what I'm about to share, you will never lose another dream to a wagging tongue again. Yours or anyone else's. Now, let me tell you something about human nature that took me a long time to learn. People are not built to keep quiet. When something exciting stirs inside them, the first instinct is to reach for a phone, reach for a friend, reach for anyone who will listen. It feels good to be heard. It feels good to be believed in. It feels good to say the words out loud and watch someone nod back at you like you're already halfway there. But here's the truth. That nod is expensive. That nod is one of the most expensive things you will ever accept in your life. Because your mind, and I mean the mind of every single person walking this earth, cannot always tell the difference between talking about a thing and actually doing the thing. When you describe your future in detail to a warm audience, your brain rewards you as if you had already lived it. The dopamine hits, the pride swells. The tension that was supposed to push you toward action quietly leaks out through your own mouth. And once that tension is gone, so is the drive. Here's what nobody tells you. The people who accomplish extraordinary things almost always share one hidden habit. They hold their plans close. They don't announce. They don't advertise. They don't perform. They move. They build. They vanish for a while. And then one day, without warning, the results appear and everyone around them stands there stunned, wondering when it all happened. That's not luck. That's not personality. That's a law as old as time. Now, some people will say, but I need accountability. I need people to know so I don't back out. I understand that. It sounds reasonable. But look around at your own life. How many times have you told the world what you were going to do and then didn't do it? How many times has an announcement replaced an action? And how many times has silence, sacred silence, been the thing that actually finished the job? You already know the answer. You've lived it. You just haven't named it yet. So let me give you the central law of this whole conversation, and I want you to hold it in your bones. A plan spoken loses its power. A plan protected gains it. Say that back to yourself. A plan spoken loses its power. A plan protected gains it. That single line, if you truly live by it, will change more about your future than 100 books. Because the moment you understand that your dreams are seeds, and seeds do not grow in the wind, they grow in the dark, you begin to treat your ambitions with the respect they deserve. You stop leaking. You start building. Years ago, I knew a man named Harold. Nothing fancy about him. He worked as a maintenance man in a small industrial building outside of a town most people have never heard of. He wore the same faded blue uniform 5 days a week. He drove a truck older than most of the men who worked in that building. And he had a dream. He wanted to open his own repair shop. Nothing enormous. Just a small place with his name over the door and his own hours and his own life. I met Harold at a diner where I used to eat breakfast every Tuesday. And the reason I remember him so clearly is because for 2 years, 2 full years, every single time I saw him, he told me the same thing. He was going to open his shop soon. Next month, after the holidays, when the taxes cleared, when the truck was fixed, when his brother came around, when. He told the waitress, he told the mailman, he told the fella at the hardware store. And every time he told the story, his eyes lit up like he was already living it. He'd describe the paint on the walls, the layout of the tools, the sign hanging out front. He had it all in his head. He had it all in his mouth. He just didn't have it in his hands. I liked Harold, genuinely. But I watched something happen to him over those 2 years. His fire dimmed. Not all at once. Dimming is never all at once. It happens in small breaths. A little less enthusiasm each month. A little more explanation. A little more excuse. Until one Tuesday morning, I sat across from him, and he didn't bring up the shop at all. He just talked about the weather. That was the moment I knew. The dream had died in his mouth. Now here's the turn. About 4 years after that, I was driving through a different part of that county, and I passed a small building with a hand-sewn sign. Simple lettering, a man's name, a repair shop. I pulled in out of curiosity, and there behind the counter was another man I used to know from that same building. Quiet fellow, name of Ray, worked alongside Harold, never said 2 words to anybody about what he was up to. Ray had opened the shop. Ray had built it. Ray had done what Harold had spoken about for 2 straight years. And when I asked him how he pulled it off, Ray shrugged and said something I've never forgotten. He said, "I didn't want anybody to talk me out of it. And I didn't want anybody to talk me into feeling like it was already done. So I just kept my head down, saved, learned, waited, and moved when it was time." He built it in silence. He built it in the dark. And when he opened the doors, the whole town was shocked. Nobody had seen it coming. That was the day I learned the difference between the men who announce and the men who arrive. Now let me draw the line clearly for you, because this is the part most folks skip, and it costs them everything. Most people talk. The few walk. Most people share the vision. The few keep the vision. Most people need applause to keep going. The few need only the mission. Most people build in front of an audience. The few build in the quiet. Most people celebrate the idea. The few celebrate the finish. Most people wear their dreams on their sleeves. The few wear their dreams in their bones. You see the difference? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not opportunity. It's tone. It's temperament. It's the way a person handles the sacred space between the dream and the delivery. Here's the thing. Loud dreams tend to be shallow dreams. Not always, but often. Because a person truly committed to something rarely feels the need to keep advertising it. The person committed to writing a book doesn't tell everyone he's writing a book. He writes it. The person committed to getting in shape doesn't announce the new gym membership. She just goes. The person committed to changing his whole life doesn't post it. He lives it. And a year later, everyone around him stands there staring, because the person they knew is gone and a new one has taken his place. And nobody saw the transformation happen because it happened behind closed doors. That is the way of the few. That is the way of the ones who rise. And I want you to feel this clearly. There is nothing wrong with being excited about your future. There is nothing wrong with sharing joy. But there is a difference between joy and leakage. Joy is what you feel when you look at the road ahead. Leakage is what happens when you pour that joy into the ears of people who did not earn the right to hear it. Most people leak. The few contain. Now, some people will say, "But surely the people who love me deserve to know my plans." And I understand the sentiment. I do. But here is what I want you to sit with. A truth that took me half my life to accept. The people closest to you are not always the people best suited to carry your dream. That is not their fault. That is not a mark against their love. It is simply a fact of how humans are built. When you tell someone close to you that you are about to change, to become richer, healthier, stronger, wiser, freer, a part of them feels it as a threat, even if they love you deeply, because your growth changes the relationship. Your growth changes the balance. Your growth reminds them of everything they have not done in their own life. So they discourage you. Sometimes gently, sometimes cleverly, sometimes without even knowing they're doing it. They ask questions that plant doubt. Are you sure that's realistic? Isn't that a lot of risk? What if it doesn't work out? What about the kids? What about the mortgage? What about your job? They're not evil. They're not enemies. They're mirrors reflecting back their own fears, dressed up as concern for you. And if you listen to those mirrors long enough, you will start to see yourself the way they see themselves. Small, cautious, afraid. This is why silence is not selfish. Silence is protective. Silence is agricultural because your dream at its earliest stage is not an oak tree. It's a seed, and seeds don't grow in high wind. They grow in dark, warm, protected soil, watered patiently by hands that know what they're doing. You wouldn't dig up a seed every week to show people how it's growing. You'd kill it. You'd expose the roots. You'd let the frost in. Well, my friend, that is exactly what most people do with their dreams. They dig them up. They wave them around. They show them to anyone who'll look. And then they wonder why nothing ever takes root. Here's what I discovered along the way. The size of your future is directly related to your ability to shut your mouth about it. That's not poetry. That's practical mechanics. Every dream you have ever lost had a moment where you talked about it more than you worked on it. Every goal you have ever abandoned had a phase where the audience got bigger and the effort got smaller. Let me say it another way, because this is the deeper layer. It's not about hiding, it's about honoring. When you protect your dream, you are honoring the version of yourself that dreamed it. You are saying, this matters too much to be traded for applause. This is bigger than a moment of validation. I will guard this until it is real. And then, and only then, will I let the world see it, not as a plan, but as a life. You can't build a monument and give tours during the construction. You can't harvest a crop and let the crows in every morning. You can't raise a child and let every stranger dictate the parenting. And you can't grow a dream in the middle of a crowd that hasn't earned a seat at the table. Success is not something you announce. It's something you become. And becoming, real becoming, happens in the dark. So let me ask you something straight. One man to another, one soul to another. How many people in your life right now know your biggest dream? How many of them have earned the right to know it? How many of them have you told? And how many of them have said something in return that quietly took a little of the fire out of you? When was the last time you spoke a plan out loud and never followed through? When was the last time you built something in silence and were shocked at what came of it? Are you performing your ambition or are you living it? Are you feeding your dream in the dark or are you dragging it around in the daylight like a trophy you haven't earned? Sit with those questions. Don't rush past them, because until you're honest with yourself about how much energy you leak into conversations that go nowhere, you will never gather enough force to move mountains. And you were built to move mountains. You just have to stop talking about the mountain long enough to actually walk toward it. Now let me tell you about two brothers I once knew. I've told this story a few times over the years, but tonight it fits. Two brothers, same house, same parents, same schools, same small town, same starting line, same last name. You could not have found two boys more identical in circumstance. But by the time they were 45 years old, one was a quiet, wealthy, respected man in his community, and the other was still telling the same stories he'd been telling at 22. Same jobs, same complaints, same explanations for why life hadn't worked out. I asked their mother once, many years later, what the difference was between them. She thought about it for a long moment, and then she said, the older one always talked about what he was going to do. The younger one always did what he never talked about. Same family, same opportunities, same starting point, different tongues. The older brother, bless him, was not a bad man. He was not lazy. He was not stupid. He was simply addicted to the applause of the announcement. Every year he had a new plan. Every year he told the family about it. Every year he received their encouragement, their nods, their belief. And every year, by December, the plan had quietly died, replaced by a new one for the following year. He was not building. He was performing. The younger brother, on the other hand, was a mystery to everyone. He didn't talk much. He didn't advertise. He worked. He read. He saved. He learned. He built. And when people asked him what he was up to, he'd smile and say, just working on some things. That was it. Just working on some things. And every few years, without announcement, something would surface. A new business, a new property, a new skill, a new level of quiet freedom. His life doubled while nobody was watching. Now, an old friend once told me, a man who mentored me when I was young and knew nothing about anything worth knowing. He said, "Son, if you want to know how far a man is going in life, don't listen to his mouth. Watch his mornings, watch his weekends, watch what he does when nobody is applauding. That is the man he really is." I've never forgotten that. And here's the beauty of what he was really telling me. The measure of a person's is not in their announcements. The measure of a person is in their unwitnessed hours. What are you doing when nobody is watching? What are you reading when nobody is around? What are you building when there's no audience? What are you becoming in the private hours of your own life? Because those hours, quiet, unseen, uncelebrated, are the hours that decide everything. Same family, same opportunities, same starting point, different destinies. And the only difference at the root was one brother needed the applause and the other brother needed the mission. Which brother are you being right now? Be honest. Here's what nobody tells you. Every human being wakes up with a finite amount of energy, mental energy, emotional energy, creative energy, spiritual energy. Every conversation you have, every word you speak, every plan you announce, every reaction you seek, all of it costs you something from that account. And most people spend that account before noon. They wake up with fire. And by the time they've told 3 people what they're going to do, told 2 people what they're worried about, told 1 person what they wish they had, and scrolled through the lives of 10 strangers, the account is empty. There is nothing left to build with. There is nothing left to become with. Now think about the person you envy, the person you look up to, the person whose life you'd trade for. I'll bet you good money that person is quiet, not shy, quiet. There's a difference. Shy is afraid to speak. Quiet is unwilling to waste words. Quiet is protective. Quiet is a discipline. Quiet is the sign of a person who has learned, through pain or wisdom or both, that the mouth is a leak in the boat, and you can't sail across an ocean in a leaking boat. So the discipline I'm asking you to consider tonight is not just silence about your plans. It's a whole shift in how you spend your energy. Stop reaching for applause. Stop reaching for validation. Stop reaching for the small dopamine hit of someone else nodding at your vision. Reach instead for the work. Reach for the practice. Reach for the private hours. Reach for the version of yourself that is being forged when nobody is looking. Because, and I want you to hear this, nobody is coming to build your life for you. Nobody is coming to write your book. Nobody is coming to save your marriage. Nobody is coming to fix your body. Nobody is coming to grow your business. Nobody is coming to make you a serious person. That is your job. That is the appointment you were given the day you were born. And you either keep it quietly and consistently, or you spend your whole life describing to strangers a life you never actually built. Here's the truth. It's not about hiding. It's about honoring. It's not about secrecy. It's about seriousness. It's not about pretending. It's about protecting. The most serious people I have ever known in my life had one thing in common. They didn't need you to know what they were doing. They only needed to know themselves. And that self-knowledge, that private accountability, was worth more than any external applause the world could ever hand them. You can't chase 2 rabbits. You can't announce a dream and build it at the same time. You can't seek validation and pursue mastery in the same breath. Pick one, and then live like you picked it. Now let me tell you what a protected dream actually looks like, because I want to make this concrete for you. A protected dream is a dream that gets written down before it gets spoken out loud. It's a dream that gets a plan before it gets a press release. It's a dream that gets a daily action before it gets a Sunday sermon. It's a dream that gets tested in private before it gets sold in public. It's a dream that grows for 6 months or 12 months or 5 years before anyone in your circle even suspects it exists. A protected dream has boundaries. It has hours. It has rituals. It has a sacred quality about it that the dreamer refuses to trade for anything as cheap as applause. It gets fed at 4 in the morning while the world is asleep. It gets watered on a Sunday afternoon when everyone else is scrolling. It gets pruned during long walks as alone. It gets tested in tiny, unwitnessed experiments that nobody would applaud even if they saw them. And then, one day, when the fruit is ripe, when the harvest is real, when the thing has become undeniable, the protected dream shows itself to the world, not as a plan, not as an announcement, not as a maybe, but as a life. That is the shock the title of this conversation is pointing at. Because when a person has been quietly building for years, and then one day the results appear, the world does not know what to make of it. They call it luck. They call it overnight. They call it a miracle. They call it anything except what it really was, which was 1,000 mornings of private, patient, unglamorous, uncelebrated work that nobody had the privilege of watching. You want to shock them all? Don't shock them with your announcements. Shock them with your arrival. Now hear me clearly. Most people confuse motion with progress. Most people confuse being busy with being productive. Most people confuse announcing a plan with executing one. Most people confuse talking about growth with actually growing. The few know the difference. Most people major in minor things. They chase what feels urgent instead of what is important. They spend their whole life reacting instead of building. They spend their days doing everything that doesn't matter, and none of the few things that do. The few know the difference. Most people are interested in success. The few are committed to it. And I want you to hear the difference between those two words, because it is one of the most important distinctions in this whole conversation. Interested people talk. Committed people build. Interested people announce. Committed people execute. Interested people wait for the perfect moment. Committed people move in imperfect conditions. Interested people need the world to believe in them. Committed people believe in themselves so quietly that the world's opinion becomes irrelevant. Which one are you? Be honest. Not who you wish you were. Not who you tell people you are. Who you actually are when nobody is watching you. Here's the catch. You cannot fake commitment. You can fake interest all day long. Social media is full of it. But commitment is measured in one place and one place only, in the private hours. What did you do this morning? What did you read this week? What did you say no to? What did you sacrifice? What did you build when nobody was clapping? That is the ledger, and that ledger doesn't lie. Now, let me tell you the deepest truth in this whole conversation, and I want you to lean in for this one. You do not pursue success. You attract it by the person you become. Read that again. You do not pursue success. You attract it by the person you become. This is the great secret hiding underneath the whole idea of working in silence. Because when you stop announcing and start becoming, something profound happens inside you. The dream stops being a thing outside you that you're trying to grab and starts being a thing inside you that you're growing into. The dream becomes an identity. And once a dream is an identity, it cannot be taken from you. Announced dreams can be talked out of you. Announced dreams can be doubted out of you. Announced dreams can be laughed out of you. But identity is untouchable. Identity does not need permission. Identity does not need applause. Identity walks into the room without a word and reshapes everything around it. The people you admire didn't achieve their lives. They became their lives. They became early risers, so early rising was easy. They became disciplined, so discipline was natural. They became builders, so building was inevitable. They became students, so learning was constant. And they became all of these things privately, patiently, without fanfare over years, until the identity was so settled inside them that the outer results had no choice but to catch up. You are one identity shift away from an entirely different life. But that identity shift does not happen in the middle of a conversation with your cousin. It happens in the private, silent, sacred hours you refuse to spend talking about who you're going to be and start spending being it. Now here is my challenge to you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to pick one dream. Just one. The biggest one you carry. The one you have been telling people about for a long time. The one that keeps coming back to you, no matter how many times you set it aside. And I want you to make a decision A quiet, private, sacred decision that from this moment forward, you will not tell anyone about it. Not your best friend, not your spouse, unless they are already deeply woven into the plan. Not your parents, not your coworkers, not the people at the coffee shop who ask you what you're up to. Nobody. You will go quiet on this dream for the next 90 days. 90 days of silence. 90 days of building. 90 days of protecting the seed. If somebody asks what you're working on, smile and say, just working on some things. That's all. Just working on some things. And then get back to the work. In those 90 days, you will find something extraordinary. You will find that the energy you used to leak into conversations now stays inside you, ready to be used for the work. You will find that the applause you used to need starts to feel unnecessary. You will find that your relationship with the dream deepens because you and the dream are now alone together without the noise of the world in between you. At the end of the 90 days, look back. Compare how what you built in silence to what you used to build in announcement. And I promise you, you will never speak your plans out loud carelessly again. That's the challenge. 90 days, one dream, total silence, total work. Let the results do the talking when the time comes. Now, before I let you go, I want to leave you with something. Something to carry with you into the days ahead. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too small. You are simply a person who, up until tonight, may not have understood the sacred power of a protected dream. And now you do. Which means from this moment forward, everything is different, whether the world sees it yet or not. You are one of the few. You always have been. The very fact that you sat through this conversation, that you didn't reach for your phone, that you let these words land, that tells me you are one of the ones who moves. You are one of the ones who builds. You are one of the ones, not because the world told you to, because something inside you has been telling you to for a long time, and you have finally decided to listen. So go quietly, go steadily, go without needing anyone's permission or approval. Go into the private, unwitnessed hours of your own life and build there. Feed the seed in the dark. Water the ground when nobody's looking. And when the harvest comes, and it will come, my friend, it will come, let the world be shocked. Let them wonder how it happened so fast. Let them call it luck. Let them call it a miracle. You will know the truth. You will know that you built it in silence. You will know that you protected the dream when it was small. You will know that the person you became in those private hours was the one who made it all possible. And you will know, deep in your bones, the oldest law of a serious life. Success is not something you announce. It is something you become. And the ones who become it quietly are the ones who keep it forever.